At least wear some real jewelry for once, my mother-in-law, Margaret, said with a sigh, looking at my simple pearl necklace like it was worthless. It's Christmas dinner, not a quick trip to the store. I touched the pearls gently. I had bought them with my first investment profit, so they meant a lot to me. But instead of arguing, I just smiled and kept setting the table. My name is Olivia. I'm 35 years old, and for the past 8 years, my husband's family has called me a gold digger. They think I married Andrew just for his family's money. His parents, Margaret and Robert, own Harrison Technologies, a big company. But what they don't know is that they are completely wrong about me. Be careful with those plates, dear, Margaret added. They're expensive. Try not to break them like last year. That never happened. Margaret liked to make up stories to make me look bad. Robert, my father-in-law, barely looked up from his phone. He was probably checking stock prices again. Andrew caught my eye and gave me a small smile, as if to say, I know, I'm sorry. We had agreed long ago to let his parents believe whatever they wanted for now. Then, Andrew's sister, Amanda, walked in, swinging her designer handbag. Mom, did you tell Olivia about the charity gala next week? Oh, wait, never mind. It's $1,000 per plate. She probably wouldn't be interested. I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable, Margaret said, patting Amanda's hand. It's not her usual crowd. I held back a laugh. If only they knew that I had bought an entire table at that event, through my own investment company. Dinner went exactly as I expected. Margaret kept talking about Amanda's achievements while making small, cutting comments about my humble background. Robert hardly spoke, focused on his phone. Did you see the Wilson family's new yacht? Amanda asked while eating. Now that's success. Not like some people who can't even afford proper jewelry. She glanced at my pearls. I took a sip of wine, thinking about how I had actually bought a shipping company last summer. The Wilsons' yacht. It was parked at one of my marinas. But I didn't say anything, not yet. Well, Margaret sighed dramatically, not everyone is born into wealth. Some people have to marry into it. Just then, Robert suddenly looked up from his phone, his face pale. The stock, he muttered. It's dropping. The table went silent. Harrison Technologies stock had been unstable lately. I knew this well. After all, I had been secretly buying shares for years. It's just a small dip, Dad, Andrew said. You don't understand, Robert snapped. Someone has been buying large amounts of our stock. If this continues, we could lose control of the company. Margaret's fork hit her plate. Who would do that? Probably Phoenix Investments, Amanda guessed, naming their biggest rival. I wiped my mouth with my napkin. It was time. Actually, I said, it's not Phoenix Investments. They all turned to me. Margaret scoffed. And how would you know? She gave a mocking smile. You should just be grateful Andrew married you. A gold digger should know her place. The room felt colder. Andrew started to defend me, but I gently touched his arm. It's okay, I said, pulling out my phone. I think it's time you all knew the truth. Robert narrowed his eyes. Knew what? I turned my phone screen toward them. I know who's been buying Harrison Technologies shares because it's me. Through my investment firm, I now own 60% of the company. Silence. Margaret's face turned pale. Robert stared at my phone, shocked. Amanda opened her mouth but said nothing. But, that's impossible, Margaret stammered. You're just a gold digger? I finished for her. Actually, I was a successful investor long before I met Andrew. The humble background you mock? It taught me the value of smart investments, and now your company's future depends on me. Robert grabbed my phone with shaking hands. This can't be real. You're bluffing. Check your records, I said calmly. Look up Stellar Investments. I started building my portfolio at 22, and Harrison Technologies is just my latest purchase. These pearls. I bought them with my first investment profit. That simple car I drive, I own the dealership. And just like that, the room fell completely silent. Margaret's crystal wine glass shook as she set it down. You're lying, she said, but her voice wasn't as strong as usual. This must be some kind of trick. I pulled up another screen on my phone. Do you want to see the official documents? I have the ownership certificates, the reports from the last 5 years. Everything is right here. Under the table, Andrew squeezed my hand, a small, silent way of showing support. He had always known the truth. He had watched me build my business while his family ignored me, thinking I was just a pretty face who married for money. But the company meetings, Robert stammered, his face turning red. You never came to any of them. I did, I said, taking another sip of wine. Remember Sarah Chen, the quiet woman from Stellar Investments who sat in the back, the one no one ever paid attention to? I smiled as realization dawned on his face. She was my representative. I wanted to observe the company before making myself known. Amanda let out a nervous laugh. This is crazy. Dad, you can't believe her. She's obviously making it up. Check your phone, Amanda, I suggested. The news just went public 10 minutes ago. It should be everywhere by now. As if on cue, everyone's phones started buzzing with notifications. Andrew pulled out his phone and read aloud. Breaking news. Stellar Investments CEO Olivia Harrison revealed as majority shareholder of Harrison Technologies. Stock prices surged 15% on announcement. Margaret grabbed her phone and started scrolling quickly. With every swipe, her face grew paler. This can't be happening, she whispered. All this time? Yes, I confirmed. While you were mocking my simple clothes and thinking I wasn't good enough, I was building something real. Those charity events you thought I couldn't afford, I was secretly funding them for years. Robert slumped back in his chair, looking exhausted. Why? He asked. Why did you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked softly. From the beginning you decided I was a gold digger, someone who didn't deserve your son or your family name. I tried to show you who I was, but you never listened. I let out a small sigh. Last Christmas, remember when I suggested updating the company's technology? You laughed and told me to stick to dinner parties. Phoenix Investments took that same idea and increased their market share by 30%. Amanda, who had been quiet, suddenly stood. This doesn't change anything, she snapped, though her voice shook. Money doesn't buy class. You'll never be one of us. I looked at her with a small smile. You're right, Amanda. I'm not one of you. I didn't inherit my wealth or marry into it. I built it. And now I own your family's company. Robert leaned forward, fear clear in his eyes. What are you going to do? He asked. You're not going to sell it, are you? That depends, I said, pulling a folder from my purse and placing it on the table. This is my plan for the company. Harrison Technologies has potential, but it needs big changes. Margaret hesitated before reaching for the folder. And if we refuse? You won't, Andrew said, speaking firmly for the first time. Because Olivia's plan will save the company. I've seen it. It's brilliant like everything else she does. I spread out the documents. First, we'll fix the gender pay gap. Then, we'll update the technology like I suggested last year. Finally, we'll start a scholarship program to help young investors from low-income backgrounds. Robert picked up a page and stared at the numbers. These projections, they're incredible. They're actually a safe estimate, I said. If everything goes right, we'll make even more. The room fell silent as my in-laws took in the truth. Everything they believed about me was falling apart. All those times, Margaret murmured, when you helped with charity events, when you suggested investments, you actually knew what you were doing. I did, I said simply. And now you have a choice. We can work together and make this company stronger, or you can fight me and watch everything you built fall apart. What's it going to be? 6 months after that fateful Christmas dinner, I sat in what used to be Robert's office, now mine, reviewing the latest quarterly reports. Harrison Technologies had transformed beyond anyone's expectations, except perhaps my own. The door opened and Margaret stepped in, carrying 2 cups of coffee. This had become our weekly ritual, though it had taken months to get here. The numbers look good, she said, placing a cup on my desk. Her voice carried none of its former condescension. Better than good, I replied, gesturing to the charts on my screen. We're up 40% since implementing the new tech infrastructure. The employee satisfaction scores have doubled, and our charitable foundation just awarded its first round of scholarships. Margaret sat down, her fingers nervously tracing the edge of her cup. I've been thinking about last Christmas, she said quietly. About how wrong we were about you. About everything. I looked at her, remembering the woman who'd spent years trying to diminish me. She looked smaller now, but somehow more real. It wasn't personal, I said. You were protecting what you thought was yours. No, she shook her head. It was worse than that. We were snobs, convinced that wealth only counted if it came with the right background. When Robert told me yesterday that he's stepping down and fully supporting your leadership, I realized how much we changed. The company had indeed changed. Robert, after initially struggling with the transition, had become one of my strongest supporters. His years of experience, combined with my fresh perspective, had created a synergy no one expected. Amanda took longer to come around, but last week she'd approached me about joining the Scholarship Foundation's board. "I want to learn," she'd said, without a trace of her former smugness. "I want to understand how you build all this." The sound of laughter from the hallway drew our attention. Andrew appeared in the doorway grinning. "The new tech team's prototypes just tested off the charts," he announced. "Even Phoenix Investments is asking for a partnership." I smiled, remembering how they'd once been our biggest rivals. Now, under my leadership, we were redefining industry cooperation. "Have them send over the proposal," I said. "And Andrew, make sure they know about the scholarship program. I want this partnership to benefit more than just the bottom line." Margaret watched this exchange with something like wonder. "You know," she said, "I used to worry that Andrew was making a mistake, marrying someone. Well, someone like you. I couldn't have been more wrong. You've not only preserved our family's legacy, you've made it better." I thought about the day I met Andrew, both of us young analysts at different firms. He'd seen past my humble clothes and packed lunches, recognizing the ambition that drove me. While his family saw a gold digger, he saw a partner. "The Christmas gala is coming up," I mentioned, turning back to my computer. "I think it's time we announce the expansion of the scholarship program. Double the recipients, focus on women in tech." Margaret's eyes widened. That's wonderful. I'd like to help if you'll let me. I may not understand all the technical aspects, but I know about building relationships." I nodded, acknowledging her offer. This was the Margaret I'd hoped existed beneath the prejudices, someone who, when given the chance, could rise above her own limitations. Robert appeared in the doorway, looking energized despite his recent decision to step back. "The board just unanimously approved your proposal for the Green Tech Initiative," he announced. "I've never seen them so excited about a new direction." I stood up, gathering my files. "Then let's not keep them waiting. We have a company to run and lives to change." As we walked to the boardroom, I caught my reflection in the window. I was still wearing my pearl necklace, not because it was simple or modest, but because it reminded me of where I came from and what I'd built. The holiday decorations were already going up in the office, though Christmas was months away. This year would be different. No more snide remarks or subtle digs. Instead, we'd celebrate as a real family, one built on respect and understanding rather than assumptions and prejudice. Andrew caught up with us, slipping his hand into mine. "Ready to shake things up some more?" he whispered. I smiled, touching my pearls with my free hand. "Always," I replied, "but this time we're all moving forward together." The boardroom doors opened to a future none of us had imagined last Christmas, one where success wasn't measured by last names or inheritance, but by vision, determination, and the courage to prove everyone wrong.